I'm doing a series of videos on the 10 stocks that are going to give you and I the greatest return over the next 10 years. In order to do that, I looked back from 2010 to 2020 to find the 10 growth stocks, biggest growth stocks that gave us the greatest return. I think if we can learn from the past 10 years, we can predict the next 10 years. And I'm going to give you some guidance as to where you should look and where you will find the real growth opportunities. The advantage that young people have is time. Let's talk about this.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
I identified these 12 stocks as the 12 stocks that gave above a 10x return between 2010 and 2020. And so then what I wanted to do was look at them individually and see how they got that return, and then maybe get some idea as to what facilitated these stocks to be the ones that got the 10x return. If I can figure that out, and then I can look at the change that is happening in my day to day, I can figure out what's going to happen next. So let's look at in depth at the annual returns of the 10 that I felt were most important in my analysis of 2010 to 2020. Okay, this is the chart or the Excel spreadsheet that I put together. And what I wanted to do was look at the 10 most important stocks of those 12 and then track them year to year and see how they grew. It's not surprising, as I said, the first one was Tesla, that is Elon Musk entry into electric vehicles. And with his personality and with his genius, it grew well. But I want you to recognize it just didn't take off and grow consistently at 100% to achieve its 1,400% over 20 years, or over 10 years. No, the first year it was nothing, and then 7.3, 18. Then it had a good year in 2013 with a 344 growth. But again, then it had a loss in 2016, and then on 2020 it skyrocketed. So how am I investing in here? I'm basically saying this is a Roth IRA. I'm putting $600 into 10 stocks over a 10-year period of time. So arbitrarily, $600 into Tesla, another $600 into LendingTree. LendingTree benefited from the takeoff of young people seeking loans as the government went into its quantitative easing after we came out of the subprime crisis. And as you can see, the first 2 years were not very good, but then the lending really took off in 2012. It got a 223% return, and then was pretty consistent all the way up until the latter years when I'm not quite sure why it would have dropped in 2018 well, I do. There was some interest rate issues there. So that was LendingTree. Then we have, this is a very interesting one. This is a glucose monitor, DXMC. And why did that go up? Because my granddaughters recognized that the stomach problems they were having were relative to glucose, and this company came out with a patch you could put on your arm, and then an app that you could use with your phone, and you could monitor your glucose and thus take your insulin or whatever you needed to do. And so they did extremely well. DPZ is a pizza company. That's Domino's Pizza, fast food. Grew really kind of consistently, never had a negative year, and your $600 a year investment would have grown to $66,000. We all know what Netflix is and the wonderful action it had, but look, it always wasn't every year a positive performer. It was off 61% in 2011, had another very small decline in about 2014, but it showed consistent, extraordinary growth. Grew to $133,000. What is that again? That's $600 a year invested into this. E-commerce, that's Amazon, and I think we all know what that is. This NXST is a company that came together and gathered together small TV stations and made them into a conglomerate. I think they've got a total of about 120 TV stations around the country. And again, not any extraordinary growth except in 2013, but that extraordinary growth gave them the power to grow over the years, even through some negative years. This is what I call poop in a box. This is if anybody has ever had a colonostomy, they know they never want another one. And back in 2010, and I remember this very vividly, the TV commercials that they would put on that says that you could take a sample and send it in, and we'll give you an 88% opportunity to identify colonoscopy or colon cancer if you have it. And again, if you put that into perspective, 2010 was when the baby boomers started to turn 60. This is when colon cancer becomes and colonoscopies become a part of your life, and you don't want it a part of your life. So when these people put out Cologuard, poop in a box, you can see it grew, and it grew very nice, and your $600 a year would have grown into $81,000. This is LNG. It's a Chastain. It's a company actually down in Louisiana, and they gather natural gas and then deep freeze it, which makes it a liquid, and then they can put it on tankers, and they ship this natural gas to all the countries, particularly in Europe and China, who don't have oil, thus have natural gas. And you can see it just consistently grew, and I would guess, even though it had a bad 19 and 2000 because of the shortage of natural gas, this would be a company that I would want to monitor and look at as we're going through the Russian war and the boycotting or the difficulty that people are having getting natural gas. And then this is Apple, and we all know what Apple is. And surprisingly enough, they never had the big years that Tesla and some of the others have had, where they Lending Tree, where they had 200% return. They just consistently grow and only had two small negative years. And again, your $600 a year for 10 years grows into $44,000. So what does this all add up to? Well, it adds up to, if you're a young person or any person, if you had put this into a Roth IRA from 2010 to 2020 and invested in these 10 stocks, you'd currently today have $882,000 in your Roth IRA. And the advantage of that is that's all tax-free income. In a Roth IRA, you don't get to deduct your $6,000 a year contribution, but you do then, it does get to grow in there, and when you get 59.5, you can take it out with no tax consequences whatsoever. In other words, you don't pay. If this was a conventional IRA and you're in the 25% tax bracket, you would take $100,000 out and you would give at least probably $25,000 of it to Uncle Sam. This would not happen. So that's why I want this to be something top of mind for young people. Now let's talk a little bit more in depth of how we're going to identify the companies of the next 10 years. This is 2010 to 2020. What are the companies that are going to simulate or emulate this in 2023 through 2033? Okay, so that gives you some perspective on 2010 through 2020 and how the change, driven mostly by the digital revolution, changed our world. Now, how, if you're young and you're looking at the next 10 years, where do you look for guidance? Well, I look to my granddaughter, Haley. She's a social media marketer. She's got a tremendous channel on Instagram. And if I were advising her exactly where to invest, I'd say to her, find your area of interest that you want to study, that you want to become more knowledgeable on, in the area that you believe that change is going to happen. I would guide her to say change is going to happen in the field of artificial intelligence. That's the digital revolution 3.0, machine learning, and that's basically taking our data that we have gathered over the last 40 years and slicing it and dicing it to make the world a better place. And then quantum computing. That's probably about 5 years off, but what it's going to do is basically take your computer and put it on steroids, and everything will happen much, much faster than it has in the past. Well, if I know that, and then I can adapt it to the world that I live in, that I think are the most important things that the world wants to change, what might that be? The healthcare system. We need to change it from a healthcare system to a health cure system. Why would we do that? We have an aging population. We have the baby boomers who are going into retirement. The most expensive medical years that anybody spends on medicine and medical care is in their senior years. So we need to change that. So if I know those things, and then I will take the time to research it to find out who are the companies that are going to facilitate this change, well, then I know who the 10Xers are going to be and the 1,500Xers are going to be. I just know, at least I know the field they're going to be in. I need to find the companies that are going to make it happen. How do I do that? Well, I'll give you a leg up. This is my belief of who some of them are, and you're going to notice some big tech companies in there. Why do I have them in there? Well, in order for the medical companies to work, they have to have access to big data. What do I mean by that? Right now, if you take your car into the service, your dealer's service, and you ask them, what's wrong with my car? They will put your key into a box, and it will tell you the history of everything that has been done to your car by the dealership. They will also be able to tell you the history of every other car like yours in the world. Now, if you go to get out of there and go into your local hospital that you've never been to, and you say, here's my key, here's my name and my social security number, now you tell me what my medical records are. They have no idea. They don't have the data that your car dealership does. Is this an opportunity? Yes. Why? How is that going to facilitate? It's going to be the gathering of the data. Who has the data? Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft. So they are going to facilitate make it possible for the change that has to happen in our medical field. What is that change going to be? Take disease out of our bodies. Okay? So now you have a direction, and you can connect the dots that says this is what's going to happen, a change in the medical world. Who's going to facilitate the change? The people with the data, the people with the science, and then those who deliver it to us. Okay? Then I know what I need to invest in my realm over the next 10 years. Now, you may have a different realm. You may say, okay, I understand the data and I like those data companies. I'm more interested in global warming, and so I want to get involved in solar panels and wind turbines and things of that nature, because I think that will come faster than the medical change. I don't know. But you do your study, you do your work, and then you can literally identify those companies that are going to be 100Xers, 1500Xers of the future. If you believe it's in the electric vehicle industry, I happen not to, because I don't know of a car company other than Tesla right now that makes any money. And Tesla just hasn't had competition. But that's a whole nother video. You can look that up. I don't own a Tesla, and I won't own Tesla. That's the title of the video. So that's what I suggest to you, particularly if you're a young person. Again, also, as I said in the other part of the video, put it in a Roth IRA, study your field, and go after it. It's like anything else in the world. If you're the best at it, if you're the most knowledgeable, you're going to win. If you go to Las Vegas and you go back to that poker table with 10 guys, 10 women sitting around it playing poker, you know who's going to win. The smartest guy at the table. It's the same in Wall Street. The palace, Caesar's Palace, Wall Street. All the money's on display there. But it's the smartest guy in the room who walks away with money in his pocket. That's my cue to you, particularly if you're a beginning investor, because but you can make more here in the stock market by investing in the smartest people who build the smartest companies than you can in a 9-to-5 job. Compound interesting. We'll talk more about that in the future. All right. Good luck. Join our tribe, and we'll talk more about this.